Welcome to The Mystic Lens, a podcast by Current Collective Church where we explore the spiritual path through stories of transformation from real people in our community and explorations of Christian tradition through a mystic perspective. Our hope is that these conversations will help us feel even more connected to God, ourselves, and each other, inspiring us to live more expansively from the well of living water within. To learn more or connect with us further, visit thisiscurrent.org.
Which are understandable. They're not as popular as the contemplative Christ one, I like to say.
Yeah.
Or the meditating Jesus, contemplative Christ, however you want to call him.
Right.
Because, there's just something about seeing Jesus sitting in meditation that's extremely, I don't know. It's a powerful image because we're so used to seeing him bloody on a cross.
Yep.
And bleeding out and dying for your sins, and we don't often have images of Jesus that's what was it like in his most peaceful time when he was getting dialed into what he was seeing the Father doing before he went and did all of his stuff. It's we took the worst moment of the guy's life and we're like, that's what we're gonna make pictures of forever, Yeah. So I don't know, I like the meditating Jesus image.
Yeah, I do too. It's more digestible for me.
Yeah, and just more attractive to me because like how me and you connected. I love you were just reading me some from the Bhagavad Gita, and things, and it's it feels like a more natural bridge to that Eastern mindset, So I guess we should start with that because that's how you found your way to the space, is the sticker. So it seems appropriate that we're first chatting about the sticker. So Jordan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And dude, we just have such good conversations already, and we have already been having one. You were saying something about Gnostic and Foreman a minute ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, we'll get there. I really hope that some of this will be some things that I already know that I think would be fun for other people to know about. And then most of it will probably be just how me and you hang at steady state and drink coffee and riff for a long time.
Right.
Because that's what's fun.
Yeah.
So with that, can you just share with people how you found the space? Speaking of the sticker, not to give it away, but I don't know, just share a little bit of that.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me, man. I love you and everything that you do. So really appreciate everything. And but yeah,
appreciate you, man.
So I guess so I started doing SRF, Self-Realization Fellowship, the lessons and stuff like that, and attending the temple services and stuff.
Down in Encinitas.
Yeah, down in Encinitas. I want to say right when my wife got pregnant, so maybe a year ago or something.
Yeah.
Or I guess at this point almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started doing that as kind of I don't even know how I really got into it. I guess I basically started reading the autobiography of a yogi.
Yeah.
And I think I watched the movie Awaken.
Yeah.
Which is basically the movie version of that. And I started getting really into Kriya and started to realize yoga, like we were talking about before, isn't just stretching.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
there's
started
something much more.
Yeah. And started getting really into the Bhagavad Gita but one of the things that tripped me out is when you go to SRF, on the altar there's all the swamis who came before Yogananda, and then there's Krishna, and then there's a picture of Jesus Christ. And I was like, ooh, the first time I went, I was like, I don't know about that, dude.
Yeah.
And I think one of the first services I heard, it was during Christmas time, and they were doing a whole, Jesus kind of thing. Right. And I was like, I don't know. And something I really learned from prior spiritual searching is always keep an open mind. And so I did, and I was like, man, I guess this Jesus guy isn't as scary as I thought or was like originally kind of taught. And so anyway, I had like a little bit more of an open mind, but like definitely didn't want to admit that because my experience with it before was not the best. And
can you speak a little bit more to that, like your kind of environment? Because I think what's really cool about your story is, you know, your environment growing up, not Christian and having exposure to other things, you know, so like why was Jesus kind of a figure that you were uncomfortable with?
Yeah. So I wasn't raised like religious at all, as you know. My mom, both my parents are sober. I got sober when I was like almost 20, and they, you know, part of recovery is, I mean, or most of it is establishing and continuing to seek like a, you know, a power greater than yourself, a creator, a God, whatever you want to call it. So, you know, my parents definitely did like a lot of that as I was growing up. Like my mom tried out, like she got baptized. I've told you we had like little statues of like the Buddha, and you know, we had the Bhagavad Gita on the shelf, and we had all kinds of stuff like that around the house. But they never like pushed anything on me. And when I was growing up, it was like kind of like the more the more like negative experience that people have of like, if you don't believe in Jesus then you're going to hell kind of thing. And so it was a lot of that kind of stuff when I was growing up of like my perspective of Christianity. So I was like, I don't believe in that, man. I wasn't raised like that. I was raised to accept everyone, love everybody. Everybody's like, if there is a God, why would he do that if he's really all that loving? And so I basically, you know, I got like super into punk rock. I started, you know, it was like basically the opposite of Jesus. So upside down crosses, all that kind of stuff. And so, but you know, as I got older, and I you know, I really struggled with alcoholism and substance abuse, and you know, I finally got cleaned myself up and got sober, and started working a program. And you know, I remember the guy who walked me through the steps in that program. He said, you know, you have to put your reliance upon something, because the way you're living your life, you can't do it on your own. Yeah. You know, and I think a lot of people, whether you struggle from external things like drug abuse or alcoholism or whatever, like we all kind of have that as human beings, and I think we can benefit from that message. Yeah. And you know, it wasn't like you have to believe in such and such God. That's what I think is really beautiful about recovery is you have the ability and the freedom to believe in whatever you want, as long as you know that, like, I'm not in control. And clearly I'm not, because like I've proven that to myself. This is where it takes me. Yeah. Right. Places like that, you know? Right. And so, anyway, I remember something that, he told me. He sat me down, and there's a step that you get to in that program where it's basically, we have to, you know, like I was saying, continue to search and find God. And something he did that was really cool is he invited me to his house, and we meditated for 30 minutes. And that was the first time I'd ever done that. Wow. And I never experienced anything like that. And he said, hey man, there's no right or wrong way of doing this. This is a journey. So whether you choose to do it like this or not, that's fine. This is just how I do it. I just wanted to give you some sort of, you know, introduction to this. And, but I want you to continue to search, however, you know, whatever that means for you. And so I literally went on the internet and was like, how do you meditate?
Yeah,
like,
man, that's fair.
What is this? You know, and like, and that was like 11 years ago. And so it's been, you know, it started with like believing in, at first it was the guys that were helping me get sober. I believed that they could help me. You know, that was an entity bigger than myself, right? Yeah. And then it kind of morphed into like, you know, grandparents or people that have passed away that, you know, are watching over me. And and then, kind of turned into more, I don't really know how it got to this point, but I think I experienced a lot of pain with like the loss of my brother and my other brother who was in prison, and friends that have passed away, and some crazy stuff I've seen at work, and just got to this point of pain where I was like, I need some more like direction, or maybe some more organization, or I don't know. And so I had some friends who were sober, but they were like hardcore Christian guys,
Yeah.
and they're like, you should read the Bible. And so they sent me some like, King James version type stuff.
The real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of
The
that
thou,
filtered bull
thee,
crap,
yeah.
man. We want the real shit around here.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, really. And for me at that time, not to be judgmental, it was like really creepy sounding stuff.
Yeah, right?
And like, Renaissance era type stuff. But, so I started reading, like, first of all, I was like, I don't even know where to start,
Yeah.
I was like, where do you even start in this? And so I was like, I guess I'll start at the beginning. And so I started with Matthew's gospel. And I'm like,
oh, I thought you meant like Genesis. I'm like,
no.
People don't get too far into that, and they're like, this is wild, man.
No. I started with the New Testament because that's what they sent me. They're like, you should.
Okay.
And
good.
I think they, one of my buddies was like, start with the Gospels, and I'm like, well, there's 4 of them. Which one do I start with?
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start in order. And I'm like, dude, there's like, the whole beginning with like the genealogy of Jesus, and his family line or whatever. And I'm like, okay, like I don't really understand all these names. And then I was like, oh, all these names, I could see how like people are named these names,
right?
Like,
Yeah,
this is where Jacob came from, and Abraham, and like
exactly.
I had no idea. And so, but then I was living in Hawaii at the time, and I was going through, I was just like super stressed at work. I was a paramedic over there, so I was seeing a lot of crazy stuff, and I had been a first responder for a few years at that point, and just felt like really disconnected and lost because I just didn't want to do that type of work anymore. And that's kind of what sparked me to start doing this, and or read the Bible or whatever. And so but dude, every time I would like read it, it was hard for me to like connect with it, because I would start to, like, when I would mess up or sin,
yeah,
I would I'd be like, I'm going to hell, and like nobody told me that. I just like thought of that myself, like, well, this is because that's what my experience was with Christians. And
exactly.
And I just remember we were driving on Nimitz Highway on Oahu, and my wife could tell I was like super anxious and just like filled with fear. Yeah. She's like, what is wrong with you, dude? And I'm like, man, I was mean to somebody out in the water or whatever, some like really small thing. And like, I'm not a good person. I do not think that I'm worthy, and like, and I've told you, like, I've always kind of struggled with, mental health stuff and, whatever. And so, somebody like me to have that type of narrative of like, if you don't live your life like this, then you're going to hell, is like really dangerous.
Yeah.
Cause I'll play into that hard. And then you become a perfectionist, and then it's like, well, this isn't a good way to live.
Right.
This isn't a quality of life. And I just remember my wife telling me, she's like, if God is all loving and all powerful, why are you treating yourself like this? Is you're doing this to yourself. And so she's like, I think it's okay for you to like not do that right now. Like, not dive into that part right now. And she wasn't like, don't become a Christian. She, she's always been so supportive and loving in everything I do with spirituality, because she knows it helps me. I have to search.
Yeah.
But she's like, maybe put that to the side. So
yeah.
I did.
At least that narrative for now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I did. And anyway, we moved back, and I guess I can't remember exactly how I got into like the autobiography of a yogi, but I did somehow. I can't really remember.
Was it your sponsor?
So funny kind of side story with him is he he's such like he's like you, dude. He's like such a loving, like accepting,
Was this
super
a guy
nice guy.
I met?
Yeah, Brian. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so he's the man,
spirit.
dude.
Yes.
And so my other sponsor moved when, after like a year of me being back here. And he, so I'm like, okay, who am I gonna, like a lot of it is like, what do I see in this person that I want? And it's not like he has a cool car. It's like
Right.
he has a lot in here. He's a family man. He loves his kids and his wife, and he just lives life like very free, and like that's immediately what I want. That's what I wanted with the first guy that took me through the steps, and that's what I can still want, Yeah. And so we got like breakfast somewhere in Encinitas, and I asked him, I'm like, because I think I had just watched the documentary and started reading the book, and I was like, do you do SRF? And then he's like, I do. And I'm like, I do it. And he's like, you should really like do the lessons, And I was like, really? I don't know. Like, it's like $90. And he's like, put some skin in the game, dude. Like, okay. And so I did. And they send you basically these packets of like, like how to, like the art of concentration, like breathing things, and like all these different like yoga techniques to and then you get to the point where like you apply for Kriya, and you're like initiated in or whatever. And so I started doing that, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty crazy, because Yogananda, like I was saying, like with the Jesus picture, he had like such a profound love and appreciation for what Jesus was teaching, the truth of what he was really teaching, and that really opened my eyes to who he really was and who he is. It's like and what the Holy Spirit is, and just the truth of all of this living thing that we're trying to do as humans. And like speaking of Genesis, like he, one of the things is one of the lessons, it was like the cycle of life and death or whatever, kind of getting into like reincarnation, but but he relates a lot of things to Genesis, and I was like, what is Genesis? So then I started to like read it, and I was like, well, this is, I really loved the beginning with the Adam and Eve story, because of, I guess, like the symbolism of everything, of like eating from the tree of life, and then we've talked about this, where it's like, who told you were naked, and like that experience of shame for the first time, and then that got me into seeing your sticker at the Belching Beaver one day. I went to go like watch the Chargers lose, of course. and I was like, I'm gonna go pee, and so I went to the bathroom, and I was like, meditating Jesus. I was like, this is some SRF kind of stuff. And so then I was like, Current Collective, what is this? Like I literally thought it was a clothing line, dude. Yeah. So, like, that's fair. Here's the picture. Yeah. Or the sticker. And I literally thought it was a clothing line, and I was like, well, I might as well look it up, get a shirt or something, which is funny because now you have super sick shirts now. And but dude, at the time I was like, I looked it up, and I'm like, Mystic Christian Church. I was like, what is that? And I'm like, thinking of like I went to have you ever been to Prague?
No.
It was a super random site, but like we went to this alchemy. It was like
Prague's wild though. I know,
dude. It's the coolest place.
A lot of that.
Yes. Yeah, it was like
very esoteric.
It was like a museum of alchemy or whatever, and it was like up these stairs. Anyway, it was, so I thought it was like that. I was like, if you hear the word mystic, and I think of like mixing potions and witches and wizards or whatever, like something from Lord of the Rings or whatever.
Dude, so, you're not alone in that. Yeah. My dad, like, he thought the same thing. I'm like, we're not talking about dragons.
Right. You know? Yeah. Yeah. So, dude, I mean, like, that's basically how that happened. And then I saw, like, it said contact us, and I'm like, okay. And so I like to think that I try not to excuse things as coincidence anymore. Like, I try to really listen to like intuitive, thoughts versus thinking. I know I've talked about that. Mm-hmm. And when God's talking to me and really like carry those actions out. And so I really think that was a moment where I was like, I really felt like a want and a need to email you.
Yeah.
And I think that was, I believe that was God telling me to do that. And then we got coffee, and you opened my eyes to a lot of amazing texts and things that I didn't know existed. And actually, even before that, dude, I guess creepily kind of stalked your like your YouTube channel and stuff, and was like, you were talking about like Gospel of Thomas and stuff, and bro, this is so embarrassing. I literally went, I was like, well, where's that old New Testament I had from? And I opened it up, and I'm like, Matthew,
that's
Mark, Luke, John. Yeah, I'm like, where's Thomas? Where's this Thomas one, dude? I can't find. I literally was like, I had no idea what like canonical gospels were. I didn't know any of this stuff, dude.
Yeah.
And I still don't really know too much. I'm still learning. But I was like, where is this? And so then I found it on Amazon or whatever and started reading it, and I was like, bro, this is amazing. And I got the interpretation one where,
yes,
you'd read the Logion, and it like, and then I started to see, well, this like it tells you like what to compare it with like in the Bible, and I'm like, this is like all saying the same stuff.
Yeah, but a lot is similar,
but it's so much more relatable to me because there's so much more truth in it to me. Mm-hmm. It's not so much focusing on like the deity aspect of Jesus, of him coming in, like him in South Park, you're healed with my laser eyes, and
yes.
Which I'm not like I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but it's that's just how it was to me. It was hard for me to like read the canonical gospels and like get anything from it, which is really why I love like going to the services. And like even last week when you were talking about Matthew and even like the story in John with the woman at the well, and like, cause it's like somebody like me, like an idiot that's just like reading these things, and I'm like, it's hard for me to read these things and be like, what? I don't understand the message.
First, you're totally not an idiot. But and secondly, like, yeah, I mean, these are difficult things to navigate. Like,
right.
We are 2,000 years removed from all of this, so
right.
it is difficult,
right?
And anybody that thinks it's not, they're definitely just parroting other doctrines and things. When you come at it like where you have been, where there's no cultural conditioning framework, you're exploring it for the first time. Yeah, man, it's weird and it's out there, and it's like there's so much nuance that you just don't know. So it's like, yeah, because it's a really old text, So
right. Yeah, I mean, dude, it's something I really love that you have taught me is like, I remember I was like, I don't even know, I just feel like I'm reading all these things and it's so exciting. You're like, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's like, and it just blows my mind, bro, like how much stuff is so related with like the Gita, Gospel of Thomas, even the Old Testament. Like, dude, like I know you and I have talked about this a lot, and I'm sorry I keep saying that.
No, dude, this is perfect.
It's like the part, and I'm like a professional, I butcher all these like verses and stuff, but the part in Thomas, which also I think they talk about in Matthew, where it says like the stuff about looking toward the child or the baby or whatever, and it's like, like being a dad of like an 8-month-old, like he's dependent on me, and like he has full trust in me, and that's how I have to look at the Father. It's like I have to trust him, and I think he said, and correct me if I'm wrong, after that quote where he's like, grab onto my yoke, and that's really what it is, man. When I put my full trust in God, when I'm like, hey man, I'm at a difficult point, God either is or he isn't. And if he is, I have to trust him.
Yeah.
And when that happens and I get that peace and that freedom, which is really what I'm searching for, it's such a beautiful thing. And then like to also go into that with like the Genesis story, it's like, at some point we get corrupted with the superficial, material BS of the world.
Right.
And, you look at like your son or your baby or whatever, and it's like, man, they're so free. And, like in that Logion, it's like he's, Yeshua is so That's so much wisdom in that to say like, live your life like this, you know.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's not just saying be a baby, you know, change my diaper. It's like, you know, you need to we need to live like we were like when we were uncorrupted, and we have to have dependence on a power greater than ourselves, you know. And you know, I like to call that God. So but you know, it's just crazy how it's all saying the same thing, in my opinion, you know.
And it's saying the same thing. It all has its own unique origins of where it's come from, and it represents itself. Like, I think to me there is value in understanding where it is different, and also seeing where it is similar, you know. And I think that's where, for a while, I was just really focused on making the pattern connection of like, see, it's all saying the same thing. And I think that the heart is the same in it. Like what we were talking about when we were just setting everything up was like, you know, you're talking about that neurosurgeon with like, you know, and understanding the spirit separate from the material body and things. And, you know, back at the time of the New Testament, there was the thing that later we called Gnosticism, you know, which there weren't people walking around calling themselves Gnostics. I think Christians, from where I come from, evangelical world, it's like the Gnostics, as if it was like a group, like a Yogananda, that you went and you paid a membership to, and they gave you a t-shirt that said, "Hi, I'm a Gnostic." You know, like there wasn't that. Like, we look back now and use that language of gnosis, which I think is a really great one, which we could riff on in a bit. But you know, the when it was trying to find its groove in what it was, there is a uniqueness to it. There is a similar thing that's being said, but also all in unique and different ways. And I think like finding the connections is again the underlying current of it all, no pun intended. And then like the sort of external ways where it's different, that's what brings like a fun and beautiful diversity. You know? And it's like, because for a long time I was trying to make Christianity basically just be whatever, Hinduism, Buddhism, whatever, which Hinduism and Buddhism both have a very fundamental difference between the soul, you know? Atman or Anatman, like there's either the soul or there's not, you know, and there's very different focuses. But I think when you really get deeper or higher, I think both are kind of the same, implying the same thing. Like, you see how it all works together, like what me and you were talking about. It's like there was this dualism, but dualism isn't necessarily something that is bad per se. It's just a way of interpreting and understanding what it's like to live in the material world. You know? And it's like, but there is this sort of deeper understanding that's available of the soul underneath of it all. So anyways, just kind of riffing and ranting on that for a minute, but I definitely feel that there are things that are similar and there are things that are unique and nuanced. And there's beauty in that, you know, and even in things that are like, because people ask, you know, are you like Self-Realization Fellowship? I'm like, kind of. In some ways we are, and in some ways we're not, you know. And I think it's like in the same way, like me and you have a lot in common, but we have our unique differences that makes us Jordan and Luke. We can be, you know, appreciative of that, or we can look for the ways that we're separated, you know, from that, you know. So anyways, I'm curious, you're bringing it all together in this unified way, which me and you connect on a lot. But like, how did you get to accept, like, not just accepting it, but like integrating this into your life? Because, you know, we talk about sobriety and your sponsor showing you meditation and venturing into Self-Realization Fellowship, and then connecting with us. And then, you know, it's been fascinating to me, your interest in Jesus, but yet your background of being very repulsed by Christianity and Jesus, and like working through that. Like, walk me through a little. And again, some of this I know because we've hung out so much, but I think it'd be helpful for the community to know, like, walk me through what it looks like to not just like play with the ideas, but what I see in you, and this is why I really wanted to invite you on, is like, you're truly, in the true sense of the word, like just becoming a disciple, or in Yogananda's language, a devotee, which
Right.
are the same thing.
Yeah.
Devotion, disciple means discipline. You got to have discipline to be a devoted person, and to be a devoted person means you're disciplined. You know,
Right.
so it's the same thing. So like you, I think, are a great, like, you're special in my mind because, in the best way, because you're doing the stuff. Like you're actually trying to, not trying, you are. Like you're integrating this into your life. Like, how did you get from skepticism? How do you work through skepticism still now? And like, what does real integration look like for you?
With the Jesus stuff?
All of it.
All of it?
Just like how, like I love how simple you put it when we got coffee, and I shared it with my wife, and she loved it too, by the way, where you're like, either God is or God isn't.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, when you make it that simple, it's like either God is in me and through me and working out all things for good, even whenever I can't see that way, or it's not that way. And it's like, man, it helps me just like clear up all the bullshit real quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, so just like all of it, like the interest in Jesus' teachings, but the practice of spiritual practice, meditation and prayer and study, all of that, like how does that go from a skeptical person into someone who's like orienting their life around this, you know?
Yeah. Well, honestly, dude, I think it was people like you that were open-minded, or I don't even know if open-minded is the right word, just like not judgmental and just accepting, I guess. That's a good word. And it kind of reminds me of, I did this, I was a paramedic, went to nursing school. It was like a bridge program, and so it was like I had to fly to it was like all online, but I had to fly to Wichita to do like my clinicals and stuff. And the last time I was out there, I went out there and stayed with one of the guys in my class, and we're all from other states, and he's from Oregon. His name was Eli, and he was definitely more, or he is like more evangelical and stuff. But we would have these conversations, dude, at night, like so late at night at this Airbnb we were staying at, where I was like, dude, we should make a podcast. This would be so interesting. But he, you know, he was like super evangelical guy, but he wasn't like dismissive of anything I said. It was like a really respectful, open conversation we would have, which is why I thought it was so interesting.
Right.
And
it doesn't always go that way.
No, for real, dude. And he, you know, he like, I would talk about like, well, what if Jesus did go to India in his 20s? There's not a lot of documented stuff at that point of his life. Like, what if he learned Kriya, you know, kind of more the SRF kind of mindset. And then he would sometimes be like, I don't know. How would I don't know, you know? And that's kind of what I love about you too. Like, I'll ask you certain things and you'll be like, at the end of the day, I really don't know. That's what faith is, you know. I have to just trust. And so like that's a beautiful thought, man, and or belief. And so it was like conversations like that I've had with guys like him and you and other people that really opened my eyes to, okay, maybe I can explore this more. And then I started to really build, I guess, kind of like more of a relationship with Jesus, Yeshua, whatever you want to call him. And more so like his message of truth. Because I think that's what I was seeking for, you know, and missing and lacking in my heart. You know, I think I had this God-shaped hole in my heart for many years, that was filled with other things. Like even when I got sober, like the group, other aspects or beliefs that I had in what I considered God. But, you know, bringing it back to what my sponsor told me, this is a journey and it's like always going to change, you know? And so, or, you know, deepen or whatever. And so, at that point in my life, like I said before, I needed some more, organization. I don't know. I needed some more, you know? And, I think all these experiences I had, all those conversations with him, meeting you, reading some of these things I'd never read before, like these are all things that God put in my life, and led me to where I am now and what I'm continuing to seek for. And so I think that when I started to see, I think when I started to realize like, oh, there's places like your space that's like, oh, I don't have to wear a tie and, confess my sins. And really honestly, dude, like when I started reading your book, Words Create Worlds, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the first thing I read was Sin. That was the first one I wanted to read. And you said sin is really just missing the mark, and like that super simple way to put it was like, yes, this is I get this. And it's so funny. It's like, you just need to change the language. And I'm like, immediately it makes more sense to me, because like I can mess up and, I'm not like, effed forever,
Right.
And then the other one I read was right after that was Atone, or Atonement or whatever.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I think you put it like it's just striving for like spiritual freedom, basically. It's not like, I need to. I'm trying to like quote your book. Dude. But like, these really like scary words started to make a lot more sense, and I started to realize like, oh, I've been practicing this all along. Yeah. And if this is what Jesus meant, and these are the things he was really trying to teach us, the truth of what this life really is, and that you can experience the kingdom of God here, or the kingdom of heaven here in the now, like the Gospel of Thomas says, it's in and outside, It's like, man, that just made so much sense to me, man, because it's like we live in this like rat race lifestyle, especially here in the US, that's just like soul crushing. And I think like our generation is like, dude, screw this.
Yes,
and so
dude.
like we look at our parents and we're like, bro, like, and I love my parents, but it's like, dude, my poor dad, he works like 6 days a week, carpenter, works his butt off. And it's just like, call me lazy, but I'm just like, bro, that is just, I mean, I guess like you got to do what you got to do, but it's just, man, dude, there's certain things like that our society tells us to do and keep up with the Joneses kind of mentality. It's just like, this is not a way to live. And then, like, for sure I'm not free, for sure I'm not experiencing any serenity. But Jesus is saying, do these really simple things. Even like what are the two most important commandments? It's like, love your neighbor and love God. And it's like, bro, if you do those two things,
you'll spend the rest of your life doing those,
dude. It's like, first of all, and then that's the other thing that really made me accept and love Jesus is the fact that I am a human being and therefore I'm flawed, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no one's perfect. He wasn't even perfect. And we talked about this at coffee last time. It's like, like he lashed out or whatever at the person, and then he's like, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. And it's like, dude, we do that. It's like, we have defects of character. We're human beings. We mess up, and it's like, we just keep trying our best to be, seek freedom,
Christians don't want to admit that, though, man. They
right.
Don't, because depending on what, theory of atonement you want to adhere to, one is that, he was the sinless man. And I even would say that even when Jesus' behaviors maybe don't match what we expect a holy person to be, that's not to say that he's sinning even. Like, and I think that we've gotten sin so mixed up with morality and behavior that we forget, that it's not really about that. It's about living in the deepest tune with God. Like that's what it's really about. And discerning what is and isn't for you to do. And like he was in that moment, the moment you're referencing, with the woman who comes and asking him, to bless her and things, and he's like, tells her no, and she's like, even the dogs eat the scraps from the floor. And then he's like, changes his mind, and all of a sudden now this is the example that Israel should follow, But he said, I come only for the lost sheep of Israel, is what he first told her. and the fact that he had a mind shift because of someone's, someone helped him come to a new paradigm,
Yeah.
and so it's like, he's feeling into what his work is and discerning right there in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And like we've talked about, like that's what I think's incredible about Jesus, is the relatability of the humanness that many Christians want to write off, because Jesus is just God,
Right.
and if he is human, he's a special human, but that isn't at all what, even if you want to include Paul into your worldview and framework, what he tells us in Philippians is that he got rid of all of his divinity and he fully embodied what it was to be a human.
Right.
So anyways, at risk of sermonizing you here,
I love
but I think I think that's what is so attractive to this, and what I heard in your story, and what I still hear now, is this like sense of experience.
Yeah.
And that's what mystic means, is to experience God. Mm-hmm. And it's like you ventured in, you had a skeptical mind, you began to engage the concepts, but the difference is that you experience something real by the practice of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the separating piece. And I think that's what, especially in this day and age with a lot of just like, TikTok knowledge that goes around, and it's like, and I love watching YouTube videos as much as the next guy, but it's like, there's a difference between just watching a lot of Gnostic informant videos, which are great.
Yeah.
And then learning how to integrate gnosis.
Right.
Like those are very, very different. They integrate, first realize it and then integrate it. Like, those are very different things. And what I hear in your story is like, I experienced peace. And so, I started looking into this more. And you're like following the breadcrumbs to the next part of the journey, wherever that takes you. And that's taken you around to Jesus, and then you sometimes are confronted with some of your friends that maybe have a little bit more of a rigid worldview, which we've talked about before, and like, has there been a temptation though? And I use that word temptation kind of almost, I'm kind of teeing you up, but because we've talked about some of this, but has it been a temptation to kind of give in to some of that guilt and shame, or even when friends that believe that you love, that believe the best for you, maybe warn you or give you caution? Is it tempting to change posture and direction from what's been actually nourishing to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's important too to say that kind of what you were saying before, like, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, and I think when I mean a lot of this stuff is saying the same, there's just like so much, like the message is so beautiful in a lot of these different scriptures and stuff. And like they're speaking a lot of the same truth.
They are.
But, it's like, I remember you and I were talking about this at coffee once. It's like I didn't have like a personal relationship with Krishna. It was hard for me to do that. And maybe it's because I'm an American or whatever, but it's just like, it was just hard for me to do that. And, even some stuff that like Yogananda taught, it's like, it was hard for me to subscribe to. Maybe that'll change. I don't know. But,
whether it does or doesn't,
like whatever. But like, I will say, like, one night I got on my knees and I was in my office in my house, and I was like going through something, and I was like, Jesus, if you, the God, or either is or isn't, if you're there, I need you to give me some sort of, speak to me. My ears are open. My heart is open. My eyes are open. Speak to me, And there's just been too many things. Every time I ask, not for material things, but I ask for things like that, like enter my heart with love and guide me and speak through me. I'm giving my whole will to you, and I have this perspective change, and things work out the way they need to. And it's such a beautiful thing to experience, from like full fear to that, like, wow, I made it out the other end. And like, you start to recognize, oh, it's because I like did this. I just put my trust in this whole thing. And so I, like, at that point though, is when I started having like a relationship with him, and was like, oh, this stuff really works for me, you know? And something that I really love about like your message is like last week, like, it's about converting people and stuff. It's like really similar to recovery. That's like attraction, not promotion, you know, like you can't knock on people's door and, you know, bust down the door and be like, I'm here to save you. Here's the good word. And it's like, I get the message behind, like, I get like the intention, you know, even like with my buddies, like you're asking about, like, that are like, well, that, you know, that Gnostic stuff isn't real. You know, that stuff's not real. You need to read, you know, Mark, you know, or, you know, the canonical stuff. And their intention, and I remember I told you that and I was all frustrated, and you're like, hey man, you got to remember that, like, he just loves you, and he's just trying to help. And I was like, whoa. And it's like really basic stuff like that where I go, it just changes my perspective, and that's God speaking through you to me, you know? And it's like, I have to hear that, because I'm immediately able to release resentment, you know, and resentment is it's a whole nother thing, you know?
It's poison that
poison,
you drink.
Dude. It is, man. And it's like, so, you know, so I had to start looking at things like that. And it just started to become, just so much more real for me, I guess. And I don't know, I guess that's what really like opened me up to Jesus and this whole thing. And honestly, man, like the temptation thing, like, I think there's times where I'm like, I have days, man, where it's like, you know, it's a good day or a bad day, you know, to say the least. And it's like, but again, it goes back to the message of like, idea of like, I'm a human being, and that's okay. You know, like, tomorrow's another day, you know, and but I also, like, I can't just sit on my butt and just be like, oh God, you're just going to take care of everything. Like, I do have to put my part into things. Like, I do have, like, I have action, you know, and like, it was kind of what we were reading in the Gita of like, but then it's like the fruit of my actions I can't hold on to, you know. It's like the part that I have no control over. That's what I have to let go of. And that's what really, I think, like, contemplation and meditation and really seeking truth helps me unblur those lines of like, where's my part and where's God's part, you know, because that's very hard when you're deluded, you know. And so, you know, when people, friends or whatever, temptation, like, comes, you know, into my life, like, sometimes I give into it, man. And, you know, I think those are the times when, like, I look back and I go, did I pray? Did I, you know, was I seeking God at all today? Usually not, dude. Usually not. Not to say, like, you know, I prayed and I'm immediately going to be like a saint, you know. It's like, that doesn't happen either. But, you know, I'm able to have, you know, like, a perspective change when, you know, I start my day off right. You know,
and but the saint thing, it's the one that knows when they have to recalibrate.
Right.
I think that's the thing, is we think the saint is the one that's just perfect, and the sinner is the one that's doing the debauchery or whatever. You know, it's like the sinner is just the one that just is doing their thing, that they're not living in the center of who they are, and they're not missing the mark, and that there's no care or interest of changing the mind and changing the ways. You know, the saint is just the one that's like, of course, there are moments and times that I'm prone to that. And you're tuned in and tapped in enough to know when it's an off day and you're like, yeah, today I need to surrender a little bit more. I need to understand my limitations and be okay with those. And all of that's what makes you the saint.
Right.
Is that you're having that sort of consciousness about reality. And so again, I think like people, they think of a holy person or whatever, and they put it back to somebody like being able to be perfect in this like Greco-Roman Western idea of what perfection is. And it's like, no, like being perfect, Jesus says, be perfect as I am perfect. And that word is complete, to be complete as I am complete. But even at that, I think, even if you want to use the word perfection, like, I think we can be perfect. It's just our idea of what perfection is warped.
Right.
You know, being perfect is saying, like, I know when I'm being, you know, whatever, you know. Yeah, having and I'm aware of it.
Right.
So that's perfection, because now I'm seeking to retune in, connect with the highest order of my life, and seek to recalibrate to the order of divinity. Then you are then realigning yourself in the flow, you know. So that is perfection. Because I tell people that, or like even people get tripped up on like the, you know, oneness with God language or whatever. And people think, you know, oh, so you think you're God. And it's like, well, by that, are you saying that I'm not saying that I'm the one in charge, if that's what you mean. Like, I'm not the one that's like, we think of this hierarchy in the Western mind. We come from, you know, kings and lords and ladies and all, you know, knights of the round table idea of everything. And it's like the Eastern mind sees the Tao, nature, flow. It's like, it's more like a centipede. You know, it's like, just like one of the legs on the centipede is as much of a part of it as I'm not the head of it.
Right. Yeah.
It just is like the head is Christ, you know, but I'm a part of the body of Christ. Yes. So therefore, I'm God. And so as much as my eye is part of Luke right now that you're looking at,
right.
You know what I mean? So my job, that eye's job is to be the eye, and my job is to be who I am in divine reality, you know. Anyway, kind of riffing and ranting on that a little bit, but does it ever feel compelling to you to, you know, go a little bit more of an orthodox route, or, you know, go more of the evangelical route as you're, you know, growing in affinity for Jesus?
Yeah, that's a good question, because like I do that sometimes, where like I have like so many different things I read and stuff, just like you.
Yeah, man.
Like sometimes I'll be like, okay, this is, you know, more of a Yogananda day, or, you know, this is a more of a Gnostic day or whatever. And then some days I'm like, I'm going to read the good old New Testament, and because there's a beautiful stuff in there, man.
Dude, it's great.
It's great.
People misunderstand me that I don't appreciate it or enjoy it or like it.
Dude,
you know? I talk about it all the time.
One of my favorite things, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is like one of my favorite things that you do on Sundays is like you literally did it last Sunday. Is like you read from Matthew and John, and you gave a message and interpretation that like was so relatable to me, and you do that all the time, and it's like it's
being too kind.
No,
man.
but it's I need that, man, and but then like I remember when you were going through like the alchemy of suffering and stuff, which is so relatable to me, and like and kind of ties into the whole Jesus message, because it's like, here's a guy that all he wanted was to help people, especially the people who were just kicked into the dirt, you know. Yep. And coming from the person who was in the dirt, you know, especially like in here, to hear that there was a person there that had a message of freedom and love, like especially love, you know, like I love you no matter what, like that was so attractive to me, of like, I get that is truth. And that just like disintegrates all the other stuff that I think is important, you know, that's just surface level stuff. And but you know, like when you were going through that, like, you know, suffering is what leads a lot of people to God, you know. Yes. That's what led me to God, you know, from anti-Christ punk rock guy, literally would write papers in high school about how I thought it was so, like the church was so skewed and wrong, and like, you know, they're fighting, you know, all the wars that have started and all these, you know, to, you know, now where I'm like, I I believe this stuff, man, and I believe in the message that he spoke, and I pray to Jesus Christ. It's like, that's crazy to see that switch, but it was because I went through significant trauma and pain and found a freedom in a message. And so, when you had that I think it was like a 5-piece message, I went back and read that in Romans, and dude, had I not have had that, I guess, like interpretation of what you were saying, or the way you put it, like, I don't think I would have interpreted it that way. And so, like, I really appreciate that, man, and love you for that. And because now I go back and I read certain things in the New Testament, and I just have an open mind, man. And then I'll bring, a lot of the time I just ask you about it. What does this mean, dude? I don't know if I'm interpreting this right. How do I interpret this?
It's so fun.
Yeah, and like, because I just want to remain teachable, dude. That's all.
Same.
Seriously, that's all. Like, yeah. Because the second I start thinking I know stuff, that's ego out. Is running the show. But to answer your question, man, and sorry I keep going off on all these side tangents, but
that's what this is for.
Yeah, honestly, man, there are times where I start to take things a little too literally, and I'll be like, like, maybe it was like this, maybe it wasn't like this, I don't know. And then I start kind of going backwards, where I'm like, start getting kind of more scared of it, and then I start seeing hope and freedom in it, and that's where I start really missing the point, or sinning, or whatever you want to call it, and the truth kind of goes out the door, and I start getting kind of scared. But
that's fair, man. That is fair, because I feel like it is, and that's why I was asking, because it can be so tempting to, when people can just be like, yeah, it's just this simple explanation or whatever, like,
right.
You can really question that sort of interior revelation that comes, because of the external, dogma that's there, but like, the thing that I appreciate, that I know I'm in good company with, is that Jesus, like, was quite literally turning his tradition over end for end. Like,
right, yeah.
Like, every time, like, when he was asking a question, he just asked them another question that just, like, sent everybody spiraling, And it's like, I feel in good company whenever I'm like, and I mentioned on Sunday, like, faith isn't really about, like, being able to, complete the Scantron test, right. What I mean? It's something that is more of an internal life, and that manifests itself externally, like in the Gospel of Thomas, that it's both inside and outside, and when you make the outer like the inner, and the inner like the outer, like that's bringing harmony into your life. That's salvation. Sozo means healing, and when you start to heal inside of you, and you start to get those fragments mended together, reconcile yourself, which is the only ministry we have to do, according to Paul, is the ministry of reconciliation. That begins to be reconciled in our world around us, healing around us, and we integrate both of those together. And that's all we're doing, is right foot, left foot, is just inner work, outer work all day long.
And it's funny because, like, and I know you and I have talked about this, but it's like especially with like the dogma topic, it's like, when you really look at what Jesus was teaching, he was like so anti all that stuff.
Right.
And he's like, dude, you guys are like, I have to wash myself like this, or if I don't, I'm dirty, and I have, I'm shunned, or I can't, there's like however many 100 rules for Shabbat, and like, or whatever. And it's like, he was just bringing it back to like the roots and the truth of all this stuff, you know, like I said, like the 2 important commandments to live by, he just like makes it short and easy, and like, and it's just crazy, because it seems like I love what you said on Sunday, where you said like something to the point of like, if Jesus were to see what has happened over the course of 2,000 years, he would be like mortified, dude.
Yes.
Because and like, that isn't like to throw shade. I mean, it kind of sounds like it, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful to like more traditional Christians, but it's like, bro, look at what he was teaching. Like,
right.
The Pharisees kind of are like what some of these people,
exactly.
you know, Bible Belt kind of like, you're like, for somebody who, you know, Jesus, for somebody who was so accepting and loving, like I was saying, for like the dirtbags of society, to say that you can't be a part of a church because you're gay, or, you know, you voted a certain way or whatever, you know, it's
right.
like, bro, that's crazy. That's
yeah.
like it's like you're basically doing what the Pharisees did. What he was saying, like, dude,
yes.
you're missing the mark of all this stuff, man.
Right.
Like, this is not the point. And that, unfortunately, is what like deludes people like me, and like pushes me away from it. You know, like, or you know, before when I was
sure.
younger, and it's like, it's hard, man, because it's like you can't. There's such a truth in what he taught that, you know, you provide a space for, but you know, we also can't, like, obviously, like, kicking down the door isn't, you know, and I'm here to spread the gospel, like, isn't the way I think to spread it, because you're never going to be receptive if you're not ready,
right?
You know.
Yeah.
And like, even my buddy Eli, and when we were in Kansas, he agreed with that, man. You know, and it's like, and you can tell, man, when even like very, you know, hardcore Christian guys, like guys and gals that really do live by the teachings of Jesus, have this freedom and this love that is really what I seek for, and that's what I like.
Yes.
And so like, that's the stuff that is hard when I talk with people. Like I've told people, I'm like, I want to get baptized, like I want Luke to baptize me.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you didn't have the, I'm not trying to sound holier than that, but like, if you didn't have like the back knowledge that I've been kind of gaining, like from a lot of this stuff, the light I've been seeing, it's really easy for people to just kind of like be very anti that idea, and kind of like almost, I guess, like persecute you for it. Just kind of weird. But like I said, man, I can't, there's no use in me trying to explain it, because if that channel is closed, it's never going to be received, you know? So it's like, they just have to either experience it, and it doesn't even have to be through Jesus. I think it could be through whatever, you know, like it's really just, which I really think Jesus was teaching is creating a connection with the Father, and through that I can be free, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
And I get truth from that. And it's like, you can get that from the Bhagavad Gita, you can get that from whatever. It's just, you know, you have to be open though first. You can't you can't shove things down people's throats.
That's why I said on Sunday, like, we keep referencing that a lot, which is great. But
it was a great service, man.
It's so crazy, because I'm like, I don't know, I hope this is all coming together sometimes, and then I beat myself up that like maybe I should, whatever. But like, I'm like, it's been a process of me like being more open, spacious, to tune what I think is necessary for the people that are there. You know, I used to be so overly prepared that I was not flexible in the moment to speak to where I feel like the people that came, how am I supposed to know exactly? If I know exactly who's going to be there every time, then, you know, we're not fulfilling our mission of inviting more people into this. So it's like, I have to have enough prepared to know that like I got what I call like a track to run on, but open enough to be sensitive to what the Spirit wants to speak in real people that are actually there. I'm not coming to present a TED talk with data. Like we're all walking each other home. So like, yeah, I'm prepared. It's that dance of like prepared enough, yet open enough to like, you know, use the language that people are scared of, like channel what the Holy Spirit wants to speak to us, you know, and just be the vehicle for that. So it's like a unique dynamic between the two of those. But what I was saying on Sunday is like, Jesus didn't want you to be a Christian. He wanted you to be free. And that was something like, I didn't know if I was going to talk about that, and that came through, and I'm like, we need to go here, because people think that Jesus was going around just like trying to recruit followers. Like, people followed him because of who he was, not because of anything that like he would actually thin the herd by saying something far out, like,
Right.
Eat my flesh and drink my blood, bitches. I think that's an exact quote, but not like he would do these like very far out things. People would come, and they'd be like, I want to follow you, and he'd be like, yeah, the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Foxes have dens, birds have nests, but we're homeless, dog. So are you ready for that? Like he thinned the herd consistently. And I just feel like it's important to remember that he was not going with this big campaign to like, make Christianity not again, but for the first time. Like great.
Well, it's
like,
kind of funny too, because he speaks in parables, and
yes.
he's like, I want you to seek these things, like seek the message in these weird riddles or whatever. And it's really funny, dude, when people, they'll look at the Gospel of Thomas or whatever, and they'll be like, turn woman into man, or it says that like in Gospel of Mary, I think too. And it's like people get so tripped out on that, and it's like kind of with like what we were talking about before of like just taking these things in like the Bible of like so literally.
It's the Nicodemus syndrome.
Yeah, dude.
It's quite literally that. It's like, how do I enter into my mother's womb again? He's like, dog.
Right. You're missing the point.
Yes.
But that's what's crazy is like these people who are, and again, I feel like I'm attacking people. I don't mean to be, but it mostly just because that's what turned me away from it so much. And it's, these people who are like, oh, just, Jesus said this, so that's what it means. Yeah. Word for word, that's what it means. And it's like, dude, he literally says, why do I speak in parables? There's a whole part, I think, in one of the Gospels where it's like, why Jesus speaks in parables or whatever. Yep. And it's like, so I don't know. You're just kind of missing the point, I think. And so that's I see a lot of truth in the other way of looking at it, of like, what are the hidden truths in a lot of these messages he's trying to convey, you know? So, but I have a question for you.
Sure.
So when do you know that the Holy Spirit, like you are in tune with that and you are experiencing that?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I think I kind of understand that, or I think I have an understanding, but I'm curious to see like what you think.
Yeah, man. Like in general, or like whenever I was referencing like speaking or anything, like
however, man.
I guess all of it. Like, because as I'm saying that, I'm like, yeah, honestly, it's all kind of the same. I think the simple, and it's these simple things, right? It's like when Jesus was questioned, what's the greatest law, He's like, all the law and the prophets rest on this: love God and love your neighbor as yourself. It's like, I guess all the many different things, all the 636, I think, laws that he was summarizing and all of that. Like, no matter what all the things that I'm doing it comes down to simplicity. And it's like, do I feel, if I'm in tune with the Holy Spirit, there are markers of that. And I do reference in Galatians where Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit. And so it's like peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, generosity, self-control. I'm probably missing a couple of them, but when I feel those, and it's not like I'm like going through a list in my head all the time, but I feel whenever I know I'm being impatient about whatever it might be. And I don't mean just like impatient, like, I'm ready for my burrito to be ready at the taco stand. Like, I mean like impatient about season of life. I'm impatient in the moment. Right. I know you begin to accustom yourself to what peace feels like. And peace always feels like the Spirit. The ego, Jesus, he says that the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And the devil, from an etymology standpoint, is pretty synonymous with what we understand the ego to be.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, if I'm feeling this sense of I'm missing something, or that there is something being stolen from me, there's that emptiness, and not like the good kind of Buddhist emptiness. I mean like the sort of like it comes in a lot of different forms. Despair, self-sabotage, these different things. It's like, yeah, I know that I am getting hung up. My ego, I'm getting hung up somewhere with me. This is not God.
Right.
This is myself trying to dictate reality in some way. It's my own sense of what I think should be. And essentially, to kind of harken back to some of my old evangelical days, is I'm the one that's trying to drive the bus then. And I'm frantic and scattered and chaotic and a dick and all of these other things because I'm not very good at driving the bus.
Yeah.
And anybody that knows and sees somebody who doesn't quite know what they're doing, they look a little frazzled when things are getting out of control. Mm-hmm. And I know, and the practice of my life is knowing when to step, when I have assumed control, when I've become the master of my destiny in some way. And I do think that we have some co-creation in creating reality. But I certainly know when it's my ego, because again, friction comes whenever it's in contrast to whatever I think is for my benefit, for my own propping up of whatever it is that I have a preference towards, so and it comes back to and I'll just end it with this, is that it really does come back to a feeling, at least for me.
Yeah.
And this is coming from somebody that I used to talk mad shit on Christians for being too emotional, but I'm a musician and I'm an artist and all of these things. And I was repressing a lot of that because my evangelical reformed worldview told me a particular narrative. But whenever I started to open that up again, and I don't mean emotion in terms of like, that can be very fickle. There is a deeper feeling including emotion, but also transcending emotion, that's this like anchored down rudder in the water that knows which direction it's going.
Right.
And there might be turbulent water around it. Fine. It's called life. But the rudder that knows the direction of the ship deep down in there, that's the feeling of knowing I'm in tune with the Holy Spirit beyond my understanding, beyond my, even if I'm mad about it, that's my emotion, or even joyful about it, or I wouldn't say joyful, happy about it, like, ooh, like I'm gonna, whatever it might be. A new fun toy to play with, dirt bike or something, or whatever. There's something deeper than that. That's a feeling that I know I'm in tune with the infinite. And even with that, like dirt bikes, now I'm like really riffing here, but like, I know when I'm attached to pleasures of what it means to be human. And I know whenever I'm using those as vehicles, no pun intended, as experience of life, I'm not attached to the image of what it means to have a KTM dirt bike. It's like, it's what that affords me in terms of my experience of the joy of living the human experience, that I don't know if I get to do this once or if I've done it many times, and I don't know about all that. It's a whole nother conversation, but the experience of knowing that I'm not hung up on things, and that I feel deeply that I'm being led. I'm not fighting for the wheel, that I'm being led, guided, and that shows up through the fruit of the Spirit, peace and joy, and all of these other things. Discipline too. People forget discipline is a fruit of the Spirit also. So anyways, you asked me a question, I'm gonna just kind of
I love it, dude.
So, I don't know if that helps.
No, it does. Well, because I mean, dude, I've noticed the times I really experience it the most is when I'll judge somebody, and then I see them, they'll go through something like horrific or whatever, and I see, it's like I have this complete perspective change of who they are, and I see them as a human, and I see that they suffer too, and I start going, man, And it's like, exactly, it's very hard to describe. That's what I was asking you. It's a feeling, man, of I guess the best way I could describe it is seeing people as human beings and seeing, who they are.
Yeah, in the spirit.
The
soul beneath, I guess, the human
exactly.
being. Yeah,
exactly.
Great dovetail to the very beginning.
Yeah.
You came in and we were talking about seeing beneath that,
right,
the humanness
that
separates us to the thing that actually unites us.
Right.
Deep underneath of that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, dude, and like, when I was a paramedic, I would run a lot of calls on like homeless people, or like sometimes like we'd run calls at like the jails and stuff. And it's really easy for people to kind of dismiss those kinds of people. And a lot of the partners I'd have, even sometimes myself, would be like, "Oh, dude, screw these people," whatever. And but like when my little brother got locked up, and just seeing he broke the law. He's a drug addict, but he's still a human being. He's my brother and I love him, and he has a soul, and I've seen who he is when he's not on that stuff, and he's so loving, and it's like we were all a son or a husband or what at one point, and it's like a kid.
Yes.
We were all a kid. We were all free at one point, and it's
Yes.
like, so what? Some of us get lost, and that's okay. It's like we still have to love everybody, man. And it's so I'd see these people when I was at work, and I had this completely different perspective of like, dude, they're just suffering, man.
Yeah.
And like, they're just a human being. And it's like that feeling that you get, that compassion and that love and that peace that you were talking about. I believe that is absolutely God, the Holy Spirit. I think that is what, if I lean into that, I think my life is directed the way it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know why though, man. I wake up the next day and I have that decision all over again. You know, there's a great saying in recovery. It's the shower you took yesterday isn't going to keep you clean today,
I love that.
But it's so true, man. And it's like,
so true.
Because that's something I've struggled with, and that I've talked to you about, is like, I wake up, have a great day, meditated, did whatever, surfed, so free. I'm such a good husband. I'm so nice to my wife. Great dad, whatever. And then the next day, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what the hell, dude? I just had or sometimes it's like multiple days of just like freedom and just like, this is great. And like, Jesus is really guiding me, and he's in my heart. And like, I really feel the Holy Spirit. And then, and then I'll just be like driving over to your house today, just in traffic, being like, oh, I'm wasting Luke's time. Oh, just so pissed off. And, that whole idea, like we were reading before we started all this, of just like, in the Gita, of just like, I have to let go or else I'm never going to be free. It's like that, just like, why, how did I get from there to where I'm at now?
Yeah.
Like, and then it's like, I get frustrated because I just want to hold on to that forever, which I guess kind of goes into the perfectionist thing. And then I have to remember, oh, I'm a human, and that's okay. So, and
your awareness of it is perfect.
Right. Yeah. And I remember you telling me that. And so it's stuff like that really helps me not fall into that trap of like shame and guilt and all that kind of BS. But not to say that I don't, but
right,
helps me in those times.
No, so. I think that's really good. As we close the episode, I'm curious if there's anything that you would impart to someone from your experience, your journey. I know it's a lot that's there, and I honestly feel like me and you could make a whole season together. I feel like. So this is not the last one, dude. This is definitely the first. But if there's just something that you feel like you're like, this is important to impart to someone who is, on this path too, like, what would be your sort of word of wisdom to them?
Word of wisdom?
Yeah, man. You have a lot. You play them down, dude.
I don't think I have any, but no.
I think people just listen to a ton of great shit. So
well, I appreciate it. I don't know, man. I guess the biggest thing that I've learned, doing so many like written and just conversational inventories on my past and my present and everything. The thing that I always learn is, and that I've learned from this whole experience up until now, is just being open and having an open mind, and not like just judging things. Like, don't judge a cover, a book by its cover, like that. Just really basic kind of thought, I think, is really important for people that have a background like mine. Like even we talked about my mom coming, and she had such a great time last Sunday, and she's like, am I wearing the right clothes? Do I need to wear a dress? And it's like, God, you have no idea what this space is. Yeah. But she didn't know. She came from a different, more traditional background. So just having an open mind that this isn't scary, you're going to hell, and the lightning's gonna strike upon you if you friggin' sin or whatever kind of stuff. Like, just keeping an open mind that there is truth in this, in the teachings of Christ. There's truth in just seeking God in general, whatever or whoever that is. I think that's what's really important that was really important for me. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Seek, man. Seek and you'll find, dude.
Yeah, it's all about, it's the journey, bro. There's no, I'm never going to graduate, this thing. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's constant. I'm constantly in class.
Yeah. And so, that's the key, man. And that's the childlike mind I think Jesus talks about. A child is open, and they're curious, and they're learning. Buddha says the beginner's mind, childlike mind, it's all the same thing. Yeah. It's that, and I see that in you, man. And
thanks, man.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate
coming
you.
in and sharing, and
thanks for having me.
Yeah, and this is not the last one for sure. So, but man, I appreciate you.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Appreciate you too. Love you, man.